The Good Little Book, read to you by Celia, edited by Asha. Once there was a good little book. It had fine printed pages and a simple cover and a strong spine. It sat on a shelf in a steady line with other books. There were thick books and thin books, books for racing, though quickly, and books for soaring slowly. Some books were popular, others were less. The Good Little Book was neither thick or thin, popular or unpopular. It had no shiny medals to boast of if it didn't even own a proper jacket. One day a boy drifted into the study. This boy had just landed himself in trouble and had been sent off to thinking things over, which is what he did for exactly 12 seconds. Then he began to explore. Seeing that the room was full of ancient stuff that didn't do anything, the boy pulled out the Good Little Book, and with a great sigh he began to read. The silence of reading slowly filled the room. It spread itself through the walls and ceilings and spilled into the street. The wind whistled through a crack in the window. The clock ticked in the corner, but the boy didn't notice. The book, the boy thought, couldn't do anything, did many things. It carried him into the deep sea and steered him towards a faraway land. It dazzled him and stumped him and made him laugh and gasp. He read it through, then he turned back to the beginning and read it again. Winter came and snow fell on the city. No matter what his days held in store, the boy never tried of reading the Good Little Book. It didn't turn him into a bookish boy or improve his naughty behavior, but it did become a loyal companion there to see him to sleep and distract him whenever he had to think things over. Spring came and rain fell on the city. The Good Little Book continued to accompany the boy wherever, until one day something terrible happened. The boy lost his favorite book. He retraced his steps, searching and searching, hunting for hours, but the Good Little Book was gone. In his distress, he pictured the worst: fires and floods, bandits and bears. The boy worried. How would such a good and quiet book survive? What would it do if it found itself at the edge of the unknown or among frightful enemies? You see, the Good Little Book did not have skills that would help in the dangerous wild or the rushing streets. It wasn't even wearing a proper jacket. If only it was a sensible book of languages or a useful book of information. If it only were loud enough to make itself noticeable. The boy sought help, but discovered that very few people have time for a lost book, no matter how good or little it might be. He put up posters. He went places that books like to go, until he finally ended up at the library, but his book was not there. Summer came, and petals and pollen fell on the city. As the boy waited for the book to turn up, he began to read other books to pass the time. He space traveled, time traveled, and elephant traveled all over the world and beyond. At first, it made a little difference no matter how many nearly good books he read. The boy still felt that the Good Little Book had been written especially for him, but slowly his heart began to open to other stories. Little did he know that his lost book had been noticed. The animals had noticed. A squirrel thought it might be a thriller. A sparrow thought it might be romance. A raccoon thought it might be a sandwich, and a cat sat on it to keep it warm. And a little girl had noticed it too. Autumn came and leaves fell on the city. The boy was out one morning when something caught his eye. He stopped and opened his mouth to say something. Then he closed his mouth and let the girl in the book go. But it didn't really go. You see, a good little book never completely goes away. In the season that followed, the book the boy thought too quiet and helpless to survive in the world, but he did just fine. In fact, you could even say it blossomed. The end.